Hello YouTube, and welcome to the Red Iron Glaive channel. Alright, so we're here. The first official video.
We're here.
Right? So just to refamiliarize you guys with the format, what these long form videos are going to be are us discussing historical characters in history. So I'll be primarily drawing from people who I've been doing my quotes of the day from in my short form content. And it'll be me and a special guest, probably a lot of reoccurring guests because, we're not all famous yet. But so today we have my girlfriend and soon-to-be history teacher, Mary Lemoyne.
Hello.
And today Mary and I will be talking a little bit about Marcus Aurelius. All right. So in Rome's 900-year of history, which is, a lot of people like to kind of get nitpicky on when Rome started and ended, but
some debate around that.
Roughly 900-year history. There were five, count them five, good emperors.
Only five.
And these were good guys, pretty much. And they're not all in succession either. They didn't all come one after the other. They're pretty much cherry picked for what they did for Rome. And today we're talking about the final good emperor, Marcus Aurelius. All right.
Very interesting character.
Very interesting. So tell them a little bit about Marcus, Mary.
Okay. So Marcus Aurelius, he came from a prominent Roman family. In Rome, around that time frame, wealth was very much so something that was just you kind of had to have it to move forward in life. You're not really going to have rags to riches stories around this time frame, just mostly because of how the social structures did work. There were very distinct social classes. But Marcus Aurelius came from a prominent family. His paternal grandfather actually was consul twice in his life. And his maternal grandmother was basically an heiress for a super important Roman family. So basically he was set up for success. He was set up for wealth. He married his cousin, actually, which was not uncommon.
We can't all be perfect.
It was not uncommon in that sort of social class to do that at that time. And you kind of see that happening a lot whenever it comes to dynasties. And though him and his wife, they had about 12 children, and all of them but one made it to adulthood, that one being Commodus, who you might have heard about before.
More on that guy later.
So it's really not super clear how he came exactly to power, but what we do know is that someone you might know about, Hadrian.
Could be a wall involved there.
There's definitely a wall involved there. But basically, Hadrian knew of Marcus. He knew who he was. Basically, he was saying this kid has something good about him. He has the makings of a good ruler. And so eventually, him and basically this other young man who did pass away eventually were sort of chosen by Hadrian to be potential successors to the Roman Empire. Eventually, though, Marcus did come to power. He actually was sort of working with Hadrian, working eventually with the previous emperor, Titus Aurelius Antonius.
Who was also a good emperor.
He was one of the 5 good emperors. But he worked with him, technically Marcus was working with him since he was 17, but Marcus Aurelius was not emperor until he was 40.
40.
So
40 years young.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, eventually Marcus Aurelius came into power when he was 40, and later in his life with his son Commodus was a co-emperor with his son. So sort of in the same way that he was prepared by the emperor that he was co-ruling with, Marcus Aurelius tried to prepare Commodus as well.
Yeah, and sort of the reason Hadrian was looking at young Marcus Aurelius as a potential prospect to be an emperor was because of the teenagers' kind of infatuation with this school of thought that we call Stoicism, right? So Marcus Aurelius is sometimes confused to be one of the founders of Stoicism, which this isn't exactly true. He was definitely a beacon of Stoicism in Rome, but Stoicism was founded almost 100 years earlier in ancient Greece, by Zeno of Citium, I believe, and he's not even a Greek. His ship crashed in Greece, and he sought after Socrates' teachings, who had died long before him. So my point being, Marcus Aurelius is not the founder of Stoicism.
He's not. He's a student of it.
And he specifically followed the teachings of, how do we say his name? Epictetus, who was a Roman Stoic, right? So you have a young Marcus Aurelius who is kind of, involving himself in this Stoic philosophy, sleeping on the floor, putting himself through intentional hardships, which is kind of where we get the modern Stoic definition from, like, oh, that guy's a Stoic, but really what the core beliefs of Stoicism is involving this idea around virtue and self-control, right? It's how we react to the world around us, because there's always going to be bad things that happen. So, like, it's our reaction and our control over what we can, following the kind of these core tenets, these 4 core tenets of wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. And Stoicism is built around logos, physics, and ethics, which just basically means logic, the physical world around us, and our relationship to God. And in ancient Greece, there's gods, but even later on in history, we'll see that Christian philosophers find appreciation in Stoicism, and ethics is ethics. But so young Marcus Aurelius was a major proponent of Stoicism, and following Epictetus's kind of teachings on how we should write things down, he comes up with this incredible book known as Meditations. So Meditations, it wasn't really meant for the public. It was, it's essentially a glorified diary, right? Marcus Aurelius' thoughts throughout his life. And this is probably bigger than any contribution that he made to Rome, because Meditations, if you go into a bookstore, is sold today. And the teachings we derive from Meditations can be applied to our everyday life. So it's so widespread that that's where that kind of idea of Marcus Aurelius is one of the founders of Stoicism comes from. Funny enough. But so he took this idea, this Stoic philosophy, into the empire. And in this point in Rome's history, Rome is plagued by plague and economic crisis. And here is Marcus Aurelius, who instead of hiding in the palace, is showing face out there with the public, being strong, being stoic. And something that could have easily propelled Rome into a dark age, he kind of took it on his shoulders, was still building Rome into, the empire that we know today. Giving him one of the titles of one of the 5 good emperors, right? But, Marcus Aurelius, like any other human, was not perfect. And he says this himself in his book. He has plenty of problems and wasn't afraid to admit them. And I think his biggest problem is probably what the leader that comes after him, right?
That's definitely a valid take on that, yeah. Marcus Aurelius, as kind of like I mentioned previously, he had 12 children with his wife, and one of them survived to adulthood, that being Commodus. So Commodus basically, again, kind of like I mentioned, he was the only one that made it to adulthood, and like Marcus, who became sort of like a co-emperor, co-ruler at around 17, is whenever that sort of happened. Marcus had Commodus do this at 15. So he was still definitely like an older child, like starting to grow into a young man around the same age that Marcus was. But basically whenever Marcus eventually passed away, that's around the time that Commodus's rule really just took a turn for the worse. He definitely developed sort of almost like a god complex. It's not something that we it can be seen throughout different Roman emperors. I mean, you know, we can instantly think of people like Caligula. That's a pretty famous example. But, you know, Commodus was one of them. He did go into the Colosseum. He had like wrestling partners. He was really into all of this. He liked the idea of like fame, but like in the sense of not through being a good ruler, and you know that he really abandoned those Stoic ideas that his father had, but rather through the idea of like being like a celebrity in a sense. Gladiator famously has Commodus in it. Excellent movie. I love Gladiator. Gladiator is not accurate though. Commodus, similar to the movie, he did go into the Colosseum. That was something that he did. That's actually kind of, again, what Gladiator is talking about, obviously. That's a pretty big deal because, you know, people that weren't exactly in high society were going into the Colosseum. Right? These people were enslaved most of the time.
Right, but Maximus, guys, unfortunately, it's not a real dude. As cool as he is.
To our dismay, Maximus is not real. But, yeah, I mean, basically, eventually Commodus, he does die, actually, to his wrestling partner. His wrestling partner kills him.
Yeah.
So, I'm pretty sure Gladiator does show that at the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, except it's Maximus that kills him in the movie, not his wrestling partner.
Because Maximus is not real.
Right.
But, yeah, his wrestling partner does kill him, so the tidbit of him, like, dying before his time is real.
Right.
But, yeah, no, I mean, Commodus, basically, he sort of took all these ideas that his father had put into place and derailed them from whatever reason it may be. But
and there were no good emperors after that.
No more good emperors.
So, despite this being almost 2,000 years ago,
oh, goodness.
how does this idea of Stoicism and, you know, Marcus Aurelius' leadership in the Roman Empire kind of translate into our daily lives, right? How does it translate into physical training and health and wellness? So something that I take very seriously as a personal trainer and a fitness enthusiast is my physical well-being, right? So even though Romans weren't necessarily training in the modern sense, we can see people like Marcus Aurelius training their minds, right? So I think Marcus Aurelius, if he was placed in, 2026 now, would have the same mindset. I don't think necessarily like this information changes, right? Like these are ideas that there's a reason that they've stuck around for 2,000 years. So Marcus Aurelius would tell you to go to the gym.
He would.
He would tell you to train hard and to eat right and to
take care of yourself.
And to do things the hard way, go the path less traveled, blaze your own trails, open your own business, whatever, because Stoicism is about how we react to the world around it. And although technology changes, right?
It does.
People haven't changed that much, other than getting more civilized. I think human nature has remained largely the same.
I strongly agree, absolutely.
Well, I have a question for our guest here.
All right.
So, Mary, how do you think old Marcus Aurelius would react to AI in the classroom?
AI in the classroom.
We'll keep this brief, and then we'll go into our remarks.
I definitely think a core tenet of Stoicism, aside from what we discussed, is the idea of being able to take pride in your own work and things that you do with your own two hands. And so I think that Marcus Aurelius would not like students using AI, frankly, or even teachers using it. I mean, I feel like AI can be a useful tool whenever it's applied correct, and it's not just used as finding an answer. AI is not a search engine. AI is not a search engine. If my students are watching this,
AI is not a search engine.
AI is not a search engine.
AI is not a search engine.
But no, I mean, I always tell my students you need to scroll past things. You know what I mean? You need to find the answers yourself. You need to work for that answer. And I feel a lot of times whenever you do the easier path, which can be an AI answer. That's an easier path. That's the path less beaten, is to do things with your own two hands and take pride in what you're doing.
Is AI anti-Stoicism? Maybe. probably.
Debatably.
So, all right, guys, we're going to try to keep it not too long here, so we'll go ahead and jump into our closing remarks. This is the first video, so we're kind of building this plane as we fly it, you know, for all 25 subscribers out there. Last video, I think it was 7. So we want to hear what you guys have to say about this, especially in the comments section below. Who are some people you'd like to see us talk about? What do you want to hear about them? You know, what do you want to know? You know, but if not, we're going to keep this train rolling every week with somebody new. I think probably next on the docket, I was thinking about it, is going to be Henry David Thoreau, and a little bit about that guy. But I'm Seth Bowden.
I'm Mary Lemoyne.
And you guys have a wonderful evening or morning or whatever time of day you're watching this. All right, bye.
Bye.